reporting, and governance. An ethical approach to business should make the achievement of these standards more likely. I don't want you to leave here with the notion that financial regulator can prevent failure of a financial organization. The FSC is very clear that no system of regulation can ever eliminate the possibility of false corporate reporting or governance failures. We believe that it is impossible to achieve zero failure, and any attempt to do so would destroy wealth rather than facilitate its creation. We can, however, influence the actions of those responsible for corporate reporting and governance. In the event of the failure of an intermediary, regulation is expected to reduce the impact on investors' wealth, also on other financial institutions and the national economy. But investors are ultimately responsible for their investment choices. Therefore, it's always best for investors to think and check before investing. In doing so, investors should always request written information. Ask if the firm and product are registered by the regulator. Check out the company or organization carefully. Ask what recourse you would have should you make a purchase or investment and you are not satisfied. And ask for balance sheets, audited financial statements, income statements of the issuer. The FSC, the Bank of Jamaica, and the JDIC are the institutions critical to ensuring investor protection by providing a financial safety net for users of financial products. It should, however, be noted that JDIC is mandated to provide deposit insurance, and this mandate does not include users of insurance, securities, or pension products. We therefore submit the following 6 lessons for users of non-banking products. Lesson number 1. The business cycle is alive and well, and therefore so too is the investment cycle. As investors, we need to be mindful that periods of great returns are invariably followed by a decline, such that long-term returns are more consistent with underlying economic growth. If returns are too good to be true, they probably are. Lesson number 2, high returns always come with high risk. There seems to be a high affinity towards high risk, whether it's driven by greed or not. I believe it best to initially build wealth with low risk and with traditional investment instruments, and then to go on to more risky instruments while limiting your exposure. Lesson number 3, beware of market sentiment, which plays a huge role in investment markets, system, and the economy. Market sentiment can lead to what we call the herd mentality. Everybody is running towards the same investment because they hear that it's paying such great returns. This describes how people are influenced by their peers to adopt certain behaviors, follow trends, and/or purchase items. In this game, you have to be at once a skeptic and then an optimist. You must firmly believe there's no safe stock, no sure thing investment, and that risk is always present. At the same time, you need the facts and the intuition to make a decision. Lesson number 4, be skeptical of financial engineering or hard to understand markets. Never make any investment or purchase you don't fully understand. Products that rely heavily on financial engineering are the root of the recent financial crisis. Lesson number 5, it's important to diversify your investments. From year to year, there's no telling which asset classes will be the best performers. a strong argument for portfolio diversification. It aims to maximize return by investing in different areas that would each react differently to the same event. And the last lesson, number 6, invest for the long term. The daily and weekly fluctuations in markets illustrate the difficulty for most investors in timing short-term moves and remind us that the best approach is to focus on a long-term strategy. At the FSC, we have seen how regulatory changes have increased the number of suppliers. For example, with the passage of the Pensions Act, there have been at least 14 new retirement schemes, and schemes that were inactive have now become active. While the FSC's mandate is to protect customers of the non-deposit taking sector, these customers, such as retirement scheme and pension plan members, must not ignore basic principles to protect themselves. Therefore, members of retirement schemes and pension plans and all persons planning for retirement should conduct research and gather information regarding the retirement products and pension services that providers have available in the market. Knowledge and financial security go hand in hand. Also, you should keep abreast of the performance of the retirement scheme or pension fund, communicate with the trustees of the plan, and ensure that the retirement scheme or pension fund is operating in keeping with their trust deed and rules and the Pensions Act. You should seek expert advice and, again, think and check before you invest. I would like to put forward some steps that you should employ if you are, as you plan for retirement, and as Mr. Earl said, planning for retirement should start the day that you begin to work. But if you feel that the level of your pension savings is inadequate and you are embarking on your retirement, you should fast track your pension savings. And here are a few suggestions. Invest and save as much as you can. To have a pension income, it means that you must postpone some of today's consumption for the future. Examine your expenditure and determine where you can cut back. If you are age 50 or older, contribute an additional catch-up amount to your savings. Do salary deductions to secure that the monthly amount is saved. Even small amounts can add up when they compound over many years. For help determining how much you should be saving, seek professional advice. Free up more of your income for retirement saving by efficiently managing your expenses or shrinking your expenses. For example, you may want to consolidate your debt into one with a low rate or consider accelerating your payments. Again, seek financial advice and explore your options. Make the most of new money. If you get a windfall, an inheritance, or maybe a settlement of a lawsuit, or if you get unexpected income, retroactive wages, or any other lump sum payment, put that money, or part of it or all of it, into your retirement savings. Check your investments frequently. Make sure that your investments are on track to meet your retirement goals. As the FSC continues with its mission, I encourage the stakeholders and the wider public to engage us in dialogue in order for us to have an attractive investment climate that will facilitate wealth creation and wealth preservation for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Loretta Reed Pitt. Well, we have come to that time when we will have a brief question and answer period, approximately 20 minutes. And I'm going to ask you, we have some microphones there where you can go to the microphone and raise your questions for this distinguished panel. Of course, the questions are limited to the topic for this evening. And also, before we actually embark on that session, I want to alert you to the fact that we have some exciting entertainment lined up for you. Some very special artists are here and they are ready to perform. but we are going to, before we get to the artists, deal with the question and answer section. This is for about 20 minutes. I want to start the ball rolling. And remember, if you have any questions you want to ask and you are not inclined to go to the microphone, you can give the questions, just write the questions down and give them to Marjorie McGrath. Marjorie, stand up and put up your hand again for me, right? Marjorie is right here. Just raise your hands in the audience and Marjorie will be happy to come and collect those questions and pass them to me so I can read out the questions for you. But before you raise your questions, I have one or two of my own, and this is for the panel. Anyone on the panel who feels inclined to answer may do so. My question is, as the JDIC, Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, the JSE, the Stock Exchange, the Financial Services Commission, and the BOJ, all four of you were all around during the emergence of those Ponzi schemes, Olint, Crash Plus, Worldwise, all of those. As you were all around during the emergence of those Ponzi schemes, or as we have described it, unregulated or unregistered financial organizations, how is it that they were allowed to operate in Jamaica? Because I understand that they tried to operate in Cayman, and the Cayman authorities did not allow them to operate there. So how is it that with the four of you, JDIC, JSC, FSC, and BOJ, how were so many unregistered schemes allowed to operate in Jamaica and lead ultimately to the financial ruin of several people?
We have learned that there is a cycle that relates to the life of these unregistered financial organizations. So initially, they're underground. They start off with just a word of mouth, a few friends and relatives. So in the initial phase, we estimate now that the UFOs had started from probably as early as about 2004, 2005. But it was kept quiet. The persons involved, it was a smaller group of persons involved, only sharing it with relatives and close friends. And then it started to expand and grow at the point that the FSC became aware. Remember, we get intelligence based on what people tell us and based on what we find out ourselves. And then we do an investigation, because we cannot just go and show up at somebody's office and say, we understand that you are doing this unregistered, illegal conduct of financial business. We have to have the facts to support it. And the first time we did that with Olint, we got a warrant to search and seize documents from their premises, and there was a public outcry. Why? Because they were still at the stage where people were getting money. And we continued, though, to proceed. We ended up with them suing us. We issued a cease and desist order, etc. It went through the courts. Ultimately, we did a criminal referral. Well, we did succeed in running Olint out of Jamaica. David Smith couldn't stay here. But before he left, though, look at what happened. Again, I said there's a cycle. So initially, the UFO is kind of underground, a small group of relatives and friends. Then it starts to spread. Then they start to become, be big up them. You had, support from political parties, politicians. You had the establishment of a foundation. You had the sponsorship of the Air Jamaica Jazz Festival. So again, this was a cycle where now they become more entrenched in the society and they look to be illegitimate. And everybody, as the FSC was pursuing them, was saying, let them. That would just protect the rich man. Left the poor people and let them make money. Then they go to the next stage, and when it becomes clear now that they're not able to get enough funds to keep robbing, taking the new money, because this is what they do. Take the new money and pay the people who are already with them. So when the new money runs out, or when they have skimmed off enough money to live it big and to give here and give there that they can't pay the new people, then they start to crash. So the problem that we had, that as one would be fading, somebody else would come on the scene. And they had different forms. So each time we were presented with a new UFO, they had a different format. And so we would have to go back to the drawing board as far as proving why this was an activity that was an investment contract where they were taking people's monies with the promise of a return through no effort of the investor. And believe it or not, with all that's happening, they're still out there. People are still putting their money with unregistered schemes. Why? Because part of the cycle is after people have lost their money, they want to try to earn it back. So they're still willing to try a thing. So we didn't just sit idly by. And we did, there have been criminal referrals to the DPP, but we don't control what the DPP does with it.
All right.
And we also cooperated with the overseas law enforcement because we knew that they looked at it would take it much more seriously and had the resources to go after these perpetrators. So we've seen some success locally. Some of the persons are not bigger operators, but there are persons who have been prosecuted here, but not the bigger operators.
Yes.
But then we have seen more success through our cooperation with international law enforcement, in particular in the U.S.
Thank you very much, Loretta. A question here from the floor. Does the JDIC cover fixed deposits? Ms. McCain.
Yes. Yes, JDIC covers deposits. Yes,
Fixed
yes,
deposits.
or term deposits, you call them. Yes, we cover those deposits. Yep, up to the $600,000 limit.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. McCain. We have somebody at the microphone there. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I noticed you said that you cover up to $600,000. Is that correct?
Up to 600,000, yes.
Now, it would be feasible to say that if someone has 600,000, that means they might have 700 or up to $1 million or even more. What becomes of the portion that is not covered? Over 600,000. How do we protect that amount? Are we reimbursed in any way? Are there any scheme or anything there to protect that amount of money?
There is no government-sponsored scheme to protect over that $600,000. But what will happen at the time that JDIC pays is that the bank institution will be put in liquidation. That is, someone appointed by the court will take all the existing assets of the company, liquidate them, meaning turn them into cash. Then that person will look at all the creditors that the company has, that is all the persons that are owed money by that company, and then divide up whatever those assets realize to distribute to those creditors who still have money outstanding from the
Okay, is there any method currently available that one could protect without having to go into that process of getting money from liquidated assets?
the balance?
To invest it in such a way that the portion that's not covered, there's also a method of covering that in some other investment options that we have.
Yeah.
In other words, you don't want to deposit only in one thing and then you lose there and then you have to wait and the liquidation process goes through. There must be some method that you could actually deposit and that portion beyond $600,000 is still covered.
No, because remember, you would have put, say, $1 million in the bank. Now, under the government-sponsored scheme, JDIC, we guarantee you 600. But just remember that $1 million was in that bank. It wasn't anywhere else. Okay? So we've guaranteed you that. So it has.
I understand what you say, but my question,
yes,
being the fact that you guys are bankers or whatever, what would you advise me to do with the portion above 600,000? How do I bank it?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, so you would put 600. $100,000 in your deposit account so that you know you're fully covered to that extent. Right. You know, Mrs. Reed-Pitt alluded to the fact that with money you have to diversify your investment.
Well, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, you know, you could actually put $400,000 in another bank, because the likelihood, I mean, I can't tell you, of another one having problems.
That's what I'm saying. You say that this is open to the average persons who are not familiar with all these highfalutin terms.
Yes.
If you could break it down to us in such a way that, like, because chances are if I had 600,000, mean I might have $1 million or even more.
Yes.
How do I invest it or deposit it or do whatever I have to do with it to ensure that it is there in the long run?
In the long run.
That's what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. I would, well, if it was me, I would put 600,000 in one bank, 400,000 I'll put maybe in another bank, or invest in the stock market, or try to purchase an asset. With those funds, like land. But in any event, what you're doing is you're diversifying your monies. You're putting it in different investments, because something can happen to one part of your investment, but the other part of your investment would be safe. That is what I would advise. Or simply putting that 400,000 in another bank, given that the likelihood of you being so unlucky as to have the two of your banks failing, you know, is less. That's what I would do.
Diversify your portfolio.
Yeah, basically that's when they're speaking highfalutin, that's what they mean. That's all they mean. Put your money in different baskets.
All right. All right, here's another question, and this goes to the third speaker, Mr. Graham. What are the risks of investing in the stock exchange?
The risks of investing in the stock exchange involves the fact that the price of the stock can go up on a particular day, or it can simply decline. So there are fluctuations that one may realize in the investment on the stock exchange. That means that your investment amount can change in proportions over time. Secondly, one can also have a situation where if you do not have a highly diversified portfolio, it is not edging enough against inflation. So it's important to have in your stock market, in your portfolio, a diversified set of stocks to allow for the hedging against inflation. So those are the two things I can think at this point in time.
All right. Another question for you, Mr. Graham. What is the requirement to invest in the stock exchange and the shortest length of period of any such investment?
Well, let me take the last question first. Usually we encourage people who invest in the stock market to try to have a long-term horizon. And that is because the investment in stocks is really one where you are becoming a part owner. That's a fundamental thing that you want to recognize. And being a part owner of a business, you are giving yourself an opportunity to have your funds grow with the development of the business. Notwithstanding that, you can have an opportunity to have a short-term horizon investing in the stock, meaning that if you invest in the stock today, you can easily come out, say, tomorrow or next week. The disadvantage with that is where you may realize that the returns is not adequate to cover the cost that it takes in investing in the stock. And I would want to also mention that when you invest in stocks for the long term in particular, you will have an opportunity to realize a greater proportion of dividend payments. In relation to what it takes to invest in the stock market, it's simple. As long as you are at the eligible age for investment, which you can sign a contract or something like that, you can invest in the stock. And it requires that you pay certain fees to invest in the stock market. You have to pay for the broker to undertake the investment for you. You have to pay a transaction cost to the stock exchange, and you have to pay GCT. So on average, you're really working out about 2.5 to 3% on the initial investment that you are going to put in the stock market as an additional cost. But bear in mind that any stock that is listed on the stock market, you have an opportunity to invest in it as long as you have the funds. And as I said in my presentation, you have stocks that value as low as 5 cents and goes to a high of, say, $300. So you can invest in those stocks, save and accept that you will provide the necessary commissions and broker fee and the GCT charge to the transaction.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Graham. An open question. Remember, you can come forward and ask questions at the microphones in the aisle.
Hello. Good night. 2 questions.
Yes.
I would like to know what are some of the factors that causes the stock value to decline or incline on a daily basis. And another question, I'd like to know if I'm interested in going on the stock market and investing, if I can just study the market and go in on my own, or I'd have to go through a broker.
Okay. In relation to investing in the stock market, on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, you must go through a member deal of the stock exchange, meaning a broker. You cannot invest on the stock exchange by yourself. You have to go through a broker. And it is important to go through a broker because that will also help to answer the first question, why stocks advance or decline on a particular day. That broker is responsible to provide you with investment advice. And that advice is usually centered around information that the company releases about its operation. So what impacts on the value of a stock is the performance of the company. The performance is released through its financial information, such as its balance sheet or profit and loss and the other statements, or you can have other material information that the company releases, and that will determine if the stock advances or it declines. So just to do a quick recap for the two questions. One, you must go through a member deal of the stock exchange to invest in the stock market. And two, why the stocks advance or decline on a daily basis is because there's new information coming to the market about the company, and people are acting on that information.
It's for Ms. McCain, and the next one is for Ms. Reed, right? My question is, we had asked before, how did the Ponzi scheme, how do you allow them to, so much of them to arise as a result of the, during the period which they did? I want to know what's the way going forward, what's the plan to prevent such an uprising Ponzi scheme? And my next question is for Ms. McCain and gentleman from BLJ. At one point in time, do you actually go into a bank? I know that there are targets that you require a bank to meet for regulatory purposes. And if a bank doesn't meet these targets, at one point in time, do you actually intervene? How long do you allow the bank to go on without meeting these targets?
Thank you for that question, but I'll let Damien answer that. Being from the Bank of Jamaica, who actually regulates the banks and what those standards that you just talked about.
Isn't really a specific time frame. Usually there's a step-by-step process, as I'd outlined in terms of our enforcement powers. But initially what we try to do as much as possible, especially where there are deficiencies that we have identified, for example, thresholds or benchmarks that have not been met, we monitor the financial institution usually against some plan that they have presented to us in order to meet the necessary standards. And so depending on the program or the plan, it can take a day, it can take a week, it can take a month. But certainly where it comes to the point to threaten the financial system itself and depositors' funds, we will intervene. So there is no specific time frame. It depends on the severity of the deficiency and the plan of action to correct it.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I have only one question to ask. The question is, well, I didn't see a listing of the brokers that is regulated by the stock exchange. Can you find that on the internet? You didn't mention the list of companies that is regulated by stock exchange. Brokers.
Yes, there are 11 brokers on the stock exchange, and that can be found on the JC's website.
Okay.
Which is www.jamstockx.com.
Okay, then. Thank you.
There was a question about the way forward. The way forward is that the FSC has proposed legislative reform, strengthening of our statutes. During the crisis with the UFOs, we were caught up in litigation as to whether or not we had a right to regulate these entities or not. One of the proposals that we have for amendment to the legislation is a definition of a Ponzi scheme, and anything that looks like, talks like, walks like a Ponzi scheme would be illegal. And we would also have enhanced or strengthened enforcement powers, increased, we're also asking for civil money penalties, where once we find the entities would have to pay a civil money penalty. Those are only a few of the amendments that we're seeking, but basically stronger legislation so that there's no question that when these entities arise, that we have authority over them. There will be no argument that they're not subject to our regulation. Once they fit the definition of a Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, they would be illegal, and then we can take action against them and would have enhanced, more strengthened power.
All right, thank you very much for that, Loretta. Just two more questions here. One open question. How can one choose the best pension scheme?
Well, I think that comes to research. You'd have to look at the track record of the retirement scheme. And I hope everybody understands the distinction between a retirement scheme and a pension plan. A pension plan is sponsored by an employer. And only Jamaican residents who are not members of a pension plan can participate in a retirement scheme. So if you are self-employed, you're on a contract where you get a gratuity, then you can participate in a retirement scheme. And what you want to do is to look at what their track record has been, what has been their earnings on the fund that has been invested with them. So you have a sense of how you fare in terms of the return that you will get on your retirement scheme monies. You'd also want to make sure that they have advisors that you feel comfortable with, as far as them explaining to you and giving you the information that you request, etc.
All right, thank you very much for that, Loretta. And the final question, I would just pose that to the policeman. And that question for the BOJ is this. Part of the problem, I believe, why Ponzi schemes were able to mushroom in the way in which they did was because the vast majority of Jamaicans felt that they were not getting the best interest rates or the best returns on their investments. And so they look for other ways in which they could capitalize on those returns. And as an example, when you look at a lot of the banks, the interest rates that they pay are minuscule, 0.25%, 1%, 2% on your deposits. Yet at the same time, when you're trying to get a loan from the same bank, the interest rates are in the region of 20%, 25%. And if you go to a credit card, it goes as high as 58 or 50%. So the question for you, Mr. Policeman, is this. Is the Bank of Jamaica A, capable, and B, going to act upon the powers that it has to regulate loans and the rates that the banks charge?
It's It's currently a situation that we are examining. We've done a number of surveys to have a better understanding of the sort of rates and fees that are being charged by banks. In terms of our legal framework and infrastructure, it is something that is not explicit and direct to say it is a power that we currently have. But certainly the Bank of Jamaica is mindful of how the market is operating. We must make it explicit, however, to indicate that the Bank of Jamaica does not have the responsibility to manage commercial banks. And so a commercial bank decision in terms of the sort of interest rates that they charge, a profit that they want to make on the products and the services that they charge doesn't directly fall under the Bank of Jamaica's purview. What we want to ensure is the sort of risk that they take, the funds that depositors place with them, is appropriately and properly managed, and that they understand the risk and certainly have the infrastructure in place to ensure that if this risk is realized, it doesn't directly threaten the principal funds that depositors have with them.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the distinguished panel. And thank you very much for your probing questions, those who were able to go to the microphone, as well as those who were able to write down their questions. At this time, it's showtime. So, without further ado, I'm going to invite the first of two artists. And remember, right after this section, we have food and refreshment for you, so don't run anywhere. It's going to be a lovely evening that continues. So, at this time, we have an artist by the name of Ashani, and Ashani is going to be performing for us right now, followed by another mystery artist who I will introduce afterwards. So put your hands together for Ashani.
Hello everybody, how you doing? Hello Emancipation Park, how you feeling? I want to hear some nice man. How you feeling? If you're feeling good, say yeah. Alright, me like it. Alright, this one is for all the people them who like to go for where them want in their life. So, say the battle may be rough and tough at times, but Father God, we help you to achieve what is thine. I think the battle may be rough at times, but Father God, we help you to achieve what is thine. To be alone, on your own, on the street, without a home. They don't really know how that feels. It's like no one's there, no one really cares. Feeling neglected. And life seems unfair, but you gotta go for what you want in order to achieve. In order to achieve that you can make your life complete. I sing the battle maybe, yeah, but you never see it. Never had a good life growing up in the street. Listen, you gotta be focused, you gotta be wise. Preserve yourself and go and live your life. Do right, go for what is right, and everything will be alright. Listen, just hold on, never give up. No matter what the pressure, just go and live up. Listen, hold on, never live up. Let Georgia lead the way. I think the battle may be rough and tough at times, but Father God will help you to achieve what is thine. I think the battle may be rough at times, but Father God will help you to achieve what is thine. Just hold on, never give up. No matter what the pressure, just go on. Give up, listen, hold on, never give up. Let Georgia lead the way. Just hold on, never give up. No matter what the pressure, just go and live up. Listen, hold on, never give up. Let Georgia lead the way. Just hold on, don't you give up. Don't you give up. I sing, don't you give up. Just hold on, don't you give up. I sing, don't you give up. I sing, don't you give up. Yeah, stop it, stop it. How you feeling? How you feeling? You feeling good? I kind of feel nervous because it's my first time performing, you know. I want to see all of the nice ladies them scream for me. All right, I like it, I like it. I want somebody to sing to you now. I want to know whom if you choose. All right, I see a nice, sexy lady over there. So she's sexy, but she old. All right. Run the next track. I want you dedicated to her. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. 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 Whoa, yeah. Representing for the ladies one more time. Yeah. Girl, listen. Baby, come and bless me with your love. Your love, your love. It's like it's coming from above, above, above. You know that I'm longing for your touch, your touch, your touch. And I am wanting you so much, girl. Just to have you close in my arms, to give you good loving, to keep you safe and warm. No jealousy, no grudging. I'll never let you go. We'll be cruising, not rushing, and that's why I'm lost. Longing for your love. Come bless me with your love. Come and bless me with your love. It feels like it's coming from above. You know that I'm longing for your touch. That's why I am longing for your love. Now I'm looking at the stars in the sky. Don't know what to think about, just looking in your eyes. The way you smile, girl, the way you profile. Got me thinking about you all the damn time. Now I can think of it with nobody else than you, girl, you. Because you gave me love, it felt so right, it felt so good, it felt so nice. Baby, come and bless me with your love. It's coming from above, and you know that I'm longing for you, baby. And that's why I am longing for your love, love. Girl, just take my hand. You don't have to cry. Girl, just take my hand and look into my eyes. Girl, just take my hand, baby. Girl, just take my hand, take my hand. Just take my hand, baby, 'cause you know that I'm longing for your touch, and that's why I am your love, love. How you feeling? You good? Baby, thank you.
Big hand again. For Ashani. All right, now this second artist who is about to perform, you can't afford to miss. You can't afford to diss. His name is Chris, and his surname is Martin. Give it up for Chris Martin.
Sweet, sit the baba da dang. Sweet, sit the baba da dang. Emancipation, we're there once again. And I eat Chris Martin out again. Who us? Baba dang, if you want you to have a nice time, I'm here make some noise right now, man. You understand what I say? Auntie Sharon, do the same. Listen up, so from the dancing nice. Every Jamaican in here right now, I want you to make some noise. I say I want you to make some noise, oh, 'cause the vibes feel right. So everyone to all a woman, enjoy the dancehall vibe. A new Kingston we're there not tonight. Listen up, hey yo, check out the vibe in the streets. Music a beat, the massive them a rock to the beat. Although JPS thief, very very thief, still not accept defeat. Had the Jamaican way, I just so we stay. We now make them lead we astray. So when the weekend come, we thump up the fun and beat music night and day from the dancehall noise. Everybody will love Jamaica now, make some noise. Give me something for my girl, please. Never been this shy, beautiful lady, always sweet as a rice cake. You always leave me wanting more, and I pretty lady on my street. Now listen, my love is knocking at your door, so open up and let it occupy your vacancy. Cause you know I wanna guarantee more of some pleasure, less pain, more passion, ladies. Now baby girl, I'm blessed to be the lucky. That I am you a part of my planet. So if you're listening, girls, I hope that you'll understand me. Oh, anytime I need a... No, hold on, listen, she know. Anytime I need a lover calling me. She know how go on. Give me again, King, you know that. See, now I gotta sing this one for my ladies. Ladies, if you know you're beautiful, make some noise, please. All my ladies all the way around here that I can't really see all your faces. But my beautiful ladies in front of me right now. It's my pleasure to sing for you. You understand? We have some dance. So big up all the beautiful ladies. We know this one. Feel free to sing along. See now. See my baby. I've been wondering where have you been so long. In my life you made a statement. Baby girl, you're like my very first hit song. And all this time I have been rising, but you ladies made me into a star. So without your love I'm new. Oh, I am knows who you are. The girl I would climb the highest mountain, yes, I do it. Oh, in the end, you see ocean, I should do it. See, yeah, it's the proof to you. My love is never ending. Oh, no, an eternity. With me Jamaican ladies out there. Ladies, please, could you sing with me now? Take my love. Sounds so good. My everything, I give it to you. So please take control of my. I wanna hear you. Take my love. Sweet. My everything, I give it to you. So please take control. Let's see my wings and fly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, oh. See, just see my wings and fly. Oh, yeah. Pretty baby, my baby. Take my wings and fly away, away. So magnificent and unforgettable. The little things you say that take my breath away. Every second, every minute, every given day. You bear a son from me, I'll give a girl to you. For you baby, let me see yourself alive now. To prove my love, no one above. Take my wings and fly, fly, fly. Now all my beautiful ladies, I want you to do one thing for me. We can do the song together just one time. No, it don't sound like you're sure. We can sing it one time together. Yeah, man, I love how it sound now. So, this side, is this side the party side? Or is it over here, sir? I want to see which side I gotta give you the most vibes. So sing it with me now, please now. Take my love. Which side louder, man? Stop the rhythm now. Take. It sounds like a honor. Or over here, sir. Some ear there now. Take my love. You louder than us, sir. You by yourself. So I can sing it. Take my love, take it all. My everything, I give it to you. So please take full control. Ladies, take my wings and fly away. Thank you very much. Drop the one for me, King, please. Cause she know now. She know me treat her better than her man. She a worry about the millions. Hey girl, you love me for true, but certain things in life I say I want to do. Hey, so you tell me need to understand that you were made from only man, but if you can't love me now, pull up. Listen now, ladies, you know we love you very much, right? So we're gonna talk. Let's talk. Cause you know it got ready. We're gonna reason, because we're here talking about investments and all of these and diversifying your portfolio. So I want to ask you something. How best would a relationship work? Let's say, you know, a little bit of love and a lot of money, ladies. That works? No, we're gonna talk about this. You know, a little bit of money, a lot of love. That works, ladies? Yes. All right, hold on then now. Little bit of love, enough money. Little bit of money, enough love. Sure? No money, little love. Enough money, enough. See no fears. She know now. She know me treat her better than her man. But she a worry about the millions, I say the millions. Hey girl, you love me for true, but certain things in life I say I want to do. Hey, so you say me need to understand. If you know what me I sing, please you go run now. If you can't love me now, don't love me later. And when my later is much greater, it only proves that you love the paper, on my paper. So if you can't love me now, don't love me later. And when my later is much greater, come in on no impersonator. So listen to me, girl, do you love me or do you love him? Who introduce you to kissing and hugging, and gentle rubbing, and sexy touching, and make a girl, and maybe you the couple loving. Oh, the thing is that you will charm me, and it shouldn't be because I'm on. You make a switch from me, you leave go, nobody come back, because my heart is up for you, no other. And I say listen up, if you can't love me now, don't love me later. And when my later is much greater, it only proves that you love me. She love the paper, she love the paper. If you can't love me now, don't love me later. When my later is much greater. Coming around, no impersonator. Take it on. Girl, I know you want stability, but that no mean say you have to sell your soul with vanity, no. Three bright lights, fast cars at the city, and the fast lane make you lose your sanity, now. We can't believe you sell yourself so short. For the money you make, man, break your parts. But how your life make your choice, because me now make you break my heart. So sing it with me now if you can't love me now. When my later is much greater, it only proves that you loved it. Loved it. So I say if you can't love me now. My later is much greater. Coming around, no impersonator. Make sure you understand that. So ladies, we love you very much. I'm not saying, you understand, but it has to work. When you struggle, stay in the struggle with you and it goes for the ladies as well. You understand? If you're in and out. Yeah, that's what I just said. So why? No, and I said it goes the same way, sweetie. You understand? Ladies, if you're doing well, and him not feel like him for dead with you from Jump Street, when the things start pop off, warn him. You understand? So right now, I want to see everyone who has someone in their life that them check for. It's all about the friends right now. So if you know you love your friend, you won't kill your friend. Everyone from around here, so to this side, to right this side. Everyone who have a friend right now represent for friendship. So push up all you and them for your real friends. Yeah, every time. Oh, sing every time. I must sing it now every time. Oh, yeah. Sing every time. Push up the end and make them. When them know said this are for real friends, for real friends. So raise your walk, raise your glass and so over yes, so me. And yes, so I'm real friends. Me now go wait until them gone. So help me sing it out for your real friends. Yes, your real friends. We're pretty straight. No, them mess don't bend, no. The real friends. Oh, yes, your real friends. We're ever genuine. Yo, let me tell you, your real friend will tell you when you're wrong. Them not gonna sell you out, forget them early puzzle. No negativity, a straight progression. So big up all the real friends, so all out strong. And listen, a real friend will always tell you the truth. And if you need a hand, they will be there to contribute. And they rejoice with the way you carry or shoot. And if you play drunk, you them not go execute or sing it out again. Fear. Know you love you. Now go wait until them gone for you. Tell them so big up on her. Big up on her. Enough love goes out, you understand? So I have a new song I want to sing for y'all. This song, who tell him? Alright. So I want to sing this song, and ladies, I must say, it's just music. So, you know, it's just music, okay? Let's go. Martinia, whoa, you know I sing a lot of mercy. it's not the first, not the last. I tell you so much pretty girl a pass. And yo, holding out is such a task. So that's why me I say this from my heart. Oh Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. Hey no, 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 cause as far as I can see, the woman on me heart not cheat on me. So Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. Please don't let me cheat. But Lord, if you can stop me from cheating, I tell you, don't let me get caught. And I said, don't let me get caught. So you understand, it's just music, you know, don't take it very literal, you know, nothing technical about it. So let's sing Martin here. Whoa, here I sing it loud and mercy. So ladies, you know, if you want to sing it, just substitute the word girlfriend for it. You understand? And have fun with the song, because it's music. Hey yo, and holding out is such a task. So that's why me I say this from my heart. Oh Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. You see your face, cause as far as I can see, you know my girl loves only me. Oh Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. Please don't let me cheat. Lord, if you can stop me from cheating, I beg you, don't let me get caught. And I said, don't let me get caught. And I said, don't let me get caught. I said, I hope I don't get caught. So listen to me now, it's such a sticky situation. I promise my girl if you only look in our direction. But everywhere me turn, me see a next one. And my body too weak and I ball for attention. I only wanna give the girls what they want. My lady says I'm wrong, but she would understand. Don't wanna lie, and I don't wanna cry, but I'm so very weak inside. So Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. Oh no, cause as far as I can see, you know she loves only me. So Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. So if you know it, Lord, if you can stop me from cheating, let me hear you, don't let me. I tell you, I said, don't let me get caught. And I said, don't let me get caught. I said, I hope I don't get caught. Take it down. You wanna like me, not try. Me love my baby, but the girls, them still there on my mind. It's unfair, I can't deny. Cause I couldn't bear to think about a woman and another guy. And yo, it's hard, yo, it's hard, yo, it's hard. We have one girl, it's kinda rough to play the part. She would have, if she know what's in my thoughts. I hope I don't ever pay that cost. So Lord, no make me cheat on my girlfriend. Oh no, cause as far as I can see, woman who live with not cheat on me. So Lord, don't let me cheat on my girlfriend. But Lord, Lord, if you can stop me from cheating, just don't let me get caught. Love respect. So before I leave right now, I want to hear all the amazing ladies make some noise now, please. I didn't say if you think you're amazing, sure, I didn't say if you think you're amazing. If you know you're amazing, make some noise. No. See my babies. No. See my titty.